Welcome back to the channel. It's been a week and a half or so off. Slight technical issues, laptop's been at the menders. Still is. I'm borrowing someone else's to try and do editing and stuff, which may or may not work. So this is about a week behind where it was planning on being, so quite a lot to fit in, so might not be as detailed as otherwise it could have been. But Formula One, originally it was like I was going to record it the week before the race came out, so there wasn't going to be any talk of it as such beyond the Callum Islet, Mick Schumacher getting testing, which that worked out well. And then we had the Honda withdrawal, and there's all the what are they going to do? What are Red Bull going to do? How will it affect various other things? It's looking very much. On the one hand, they're sort of sounding out all options seemingly at the moment. Christian Horner was quite complimentary regarding Renault and the new management there, whereas at the same time you've got Helmut Marko, of course, going on about how being a customer thing isn't really what they're after, and they might end up trying to see if they can get the Honda power units and develop them themselves, which is what a lot of people are potentially talking about them doing. So exciting times, and we'll just have to see how that one plays out, because at the moment I don't think anyone knows, but theories aside. Then of course we get to the race weekend itself, Nürburgring, and well, it's like the FIA threw the hat in the air and went, we're going to make it interesting for the drivers by setting them to track that no one's raced at since 2013. And then Mother Nature went, we're going to make it even more interesting for the drivers by not allowing them any Friday practice. And then Racing Point handed Nico Hülkenberg their beer and said, you can do it on 2 hours. So there's a lot of, with the temperatures and stuff, nobody really knew how it was going to all play out. Which made it very interesting. Sorry, I've got something in my eye, which is really annoying. Better now? Possibly. So, you go into qualifying, and temperature's cold, trying to get heat into the tyres, not got the amount of running or information or data they'd normally have. So, that's all quite interesting. Valtteri pipped it in the end. Surprising performances by Charles Leclerc, getting the Ferrari into fourth. Don't think he knows how he managed that one, but at least in quali trim he managed to get some performance out of it. And then we get to the race. So Nico Hülkenberg, not really expecting a lot. We weren't really expecting a lot from him, because literally at 11 o'clock in the morning on quali he'd been sitting there having a coffee with a friend of his, and then he gets the phone call and he's got to get to the track and get ready to go out for qualifying in 3 hours and 10 minutes. He's cutting it pretty fine. So he's starting at the back. Valtteri on pole, Lewis second, Max third, Charles Leclerc fourth, and we're all thinking, what could possibly go wrong there? But it all played out well. In race trim, the Ferrari just couldn't live with the pace of the front three, and they ran away from him. Charles basically burnt his tyres out trying to defend from the cars behind, so kind of like Mugello, they ended up having to pit early, which ultimately dropped them onto a two-stop and spent the whole race chasing, which lost out on strategy, because as soon as the softs, the car just does not seem to work on the softs for some reason for any length of time. The tyre life seems to be an issue for them on that. But I think we would have taken 7th probably before the race, before the weekend. So yeah, it went interesting after that one. Bottas having secured the lead, having fought off Lewis's challenge at the first corner, where they both ended up going rather wide. So he managed to get ahead, holding position, but then locked up and going into turn one. Lewis got him, and from there it was just a slide. As soon as he had to pit early and give up that track position and got stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo, it was always going to be a tough ask for him. but it didn't matter in the end anyway because of the power unit. But I genuinely think he wouldn't have made it back up past third after that. And it's those tiny margins, you know, one small mistake and it would have cost him about 10 points potentially anyway. So, yeah, it wasn't a weekend he'd have wanted to remember, despite the promise from after Saturday. Lando Norris was going well, you know, encouraging signs for him. It could have very much been him, Ricciardo, and Perez fighting for that final podium position. And then it all went wrong for him as well, power unit issues. And trying to keep that car into a competitive spot when it's just struggling with engine power all the time, that was quite impressive driving. So well done to him. It's unfortunate the way it played out, but you know, if it's mechanical, it's mechanical. You can't blame the driver for that. So you know, no minus marks on him for that. Perez, good fight. If it wasn't for that safety car, you've got to have thinking he would have been all over Ricciardo like a rash. So we were sort of stolen a thing for the final spot on the podium. Despite the irony, the safety car closed everything up, so it should all have been closer anyway. But it was interesting. There have been better races this year, but there's been a lot worse ones as well. So happy sitting there making my notes, watching the race, and just enjoying it as it was happening. Obviously, Lewis winning the race, he's now tied with Michael, which is a fantastic result for him. A few years ago, I don't think anyone imagined that it was going to be doable that someone would match Michael, and there was a very nice touch of Mick Schumacher handing over Michael's Mercedes helmet to obviously Lewis. And the two of them always seem to have respect for each other, so I'm going to jump off the Formula One now because there's so much to talk about after a week and a half out and being a week behind. But it was exciting stuff, good stuff. We go on to the next race, you know, Imola, 2-day weekend, so back at another track they've not been out for a while, with only 2 days running, and you know, providing the weather doesn't mess them about there, because if they lost the day of that would be even more interesting. So the highlight race I was going to be talking about when this video was originally planned would have been the Indycar race, the Harvest GP. 2 races, you know, in 2 days, and you had the first race was quite an interesting one because you had Colton Herta and Rinus VeeKay showing that the future of that series is in very good hands. Going at it, hammer and tongs, it was very exciting stuff. Different strategies coming into it again, where we had one starting on the black tyre, one starting on the red tyre, and you know, it would come back to them later on in the race. That was exciting stuff to watch. You know, jet race eventually won by Joseph Newgarden and Alexander Rossi's second. It's been a bad few weeks for Scott Dixon because a few races ago he had it absolutely nailed on, and then just a run of not great results has seen the gap go from like well over 100 to I think it's now about 32. So we're going into the final race, and while Joseph Newgarden kind of needs a miracle to win the championship, it's by no means impossible. Everything is infinitely doable, and it's definitely doable. So that it's good. I'm looking forward to the last race. You know, there's still a lot to play for. In the second race, Will Power pretty much dominated it really, but it's still exciting stuff. IndyCar races are always good to watch. If you're the kind of person who likes things like F2, for example, then imagine an IndyCar race is kind of a slightly longer version of that. You know, there is close, tight battling and overtaking and stuff. So there's a lot of similarities in the two series. Had a weird one this week where you had Formula Regional European Championship and Euroformula Open, both at Mugello racing. The week before. Euroformula Open. It an interesting one. You've got Yiffy basically is on defensive duty at the moment. It's like he's got such a strong championship lead, he doesn't really need to take too many risks. And that just means Lucas Dunner, who's come in having missed a few rounds because he was racing in FIA free, and he's just completely taken over, and the momentum is very much with him, but he's obviously massively chasing. But he's now won 3 races in a row, going into the second race at Mugello, which was run by the returning Ben Barnicoat, whose last single-seater before this year, his last single-seater racing was in 2017. And this year he's come back and starred once in FIA Free for Carlin, which he did a blinding job, just randomly turning up in the series. And then he's come into this one, and he got third in the first race, and he won the second one, which is mightily impressive. Zane Maloney looked quick in stages. Unfortunately, there was no Ayrton Simmons this weekend for some reason. Formula Scout have suggested it's a budget issue and we might not be seeing any more of him, which is obviously a shame. I like Ayrton and I hope he gets good luck going and racing in other series and we get to see him racing again in the future somewhere. Yiffy's worst results of the season were a 3rd and a 5th, but again, he doesn't need to win the races at this point because he's got such a lead. He's on 244 points, Lucas Dunner's 155. Lucas would have some hell of a chasing to do and it would have to go pretty damn wrong for Yiffy to... The problem is you hear so many different pronunciations, it's hard sometimes to work out which one is actually the correct way of saying it. But he's on form. He's doing what he needs to do to win, which is fair enough. That's one championship looking like a Renault guy might win it. Looking at the Formula Renault European Championship, well, that was just absolute Arthur Leclerc, I should say, whitewash. 3 races, 3 wins. But the races themselves were anything but dull. I mean, the first race was interesting enough. You had Yuri Vipsen 2nd, Oliver Rasmussen 3rd, Jean-Luc Petikov 4th. Now, I don't know if it was just for whatever reason that track, it didn't work so well for him, but you do get the feeling since he's had his budget issues or whatever, he's not had the testing at certain venues that some other people have had. You do wonder whether that's maybe played a little bit into it in the past few weeks. If he loses the championship because of financial reasons, that'll be a shame. But he managed to secure the budget for the rest of the season racing in Prema, so that is at least encouraging. If he can get through winning the title or finishing 2nd or whatever, that would helpfully help him secure a budget for next year. But you did have it with the FIA free testing at the end of the season, where they would test, several other teams were testing out drivers for next year, and the most notable absence from the list was Jean-Luc Petikov. So that's a little bit alarming for him. He's clearly a very talented driver, he's part of the Ferrari Driver Academy, but the budget for whatever reason just seems to be, it's either evaporated or it's just, it was enough for F4, but making the step up has been a struggle. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes or what happens to him after this year. He should do F3, but whether it will be at the sharp end of it or not is another matter. But it's interesting to see the fight between them two. That's kind of where the main action is. Race 2 at Mugello, just that is one of the most, if you watch no other Formula Renault European Championship race 2 at Mugello, you need to watch it, because heavily rain affected, people starting on dry tyres, wet tyres. One of the people who just started on dry tyres put it into the wall on the parade lap. Yeah, so that was a hell of a risk they took, but it proved to be the right one, at least to start with. So the other cars ended up having to come in for dries, and then they ended up going on to wet tyres after that a few laps later, which by this point had given Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Julien Henrion, who was a small privateer family-run team, a really good lead over the rest of them. Obviously, the Prema boys came back in the end and managed to sort of. Arthur managed to get first, and Jean-Luc Petkov managed to get third. But that was a close run thing. I mean, had it been a few more laps, it was really looking like you could have had a proper surprise on them. At one point, they were down in like about 6th, 7th, and 9th, I think, the Prema guys. It was really a tricky race, and you genuinely had no idea what was going to happen in it. So that was very exciting. Let's say, if you watch no other Formula Renault European Championship race, watch that one. That was good. Formula Renault this weekend. I can't remember where it was racing, but it's been nip and tuck. And you know what I was saying about how like the dropped Formula Renault program drivers just seem to be on a bit of a thing about redemption year. FIA in Formula European Open, Euroformula Open. But you've also got Victor Martins in Formula Renault, and he's in an absolute battle with Kaya Collat for the championship. And there were literally 2 points between them, and it's like one would win one and the other one would win one, and just they've been properly nip and tuck. Well, this weekend Victor Martins was gone into about a 14-point lead as he won both races. And is this the weekend that breaks it down, where he gets into the position which is where Kyle can't come back at him? Has he now got that cushion he needs? Because all it takes is Kyle getting desperate and having to chase the results. He's now getting in a position where he might have to take more risks or whatever else, and all it takes is for one of them to go wrong, and suddenly it's Victor Martins. At this point, you've got to say it's his to lose. Now, that would be quite ironic, because the prize normally for winning Formula Renault would be membership of the Renault Junior program. So he could literally have got dropped by Renault and then won the championship and then picked up by Renault potentially, which would be kind of amusing. But it's a big, slap around the face to Renault, trying to prove to them that he shouldn't have been dropped. And he's doing everything in his power and everything possible to prove that, and he's doing a very good job, in fairness. So we'll see how it goes. But it's exciting, certainly exciting to watch in that series. There's a lot going on. A little bit of sports car news. In European LeMan Series, Phil Hansen, Felipe Albuquerque secured the European LeMan Series LMP2 Championship by winning the 4 hours in Monza. Phil Hansen led away from pole, but it didn't go quite so well, as they made it a little bit difficult by skirting the gravel and apparently dropping back to about 15th. Eventually, after 4 hours, they fought their way back to the lead of the race and won by 3 seconds from their teammates in the 32 United Autosport car, being driven at the end by Alex Brundle. So they've secured the LMP2 title with that win. It's their 4th of the season, which is not exactly shabby. But as well as that, that means they've also won the LMP2 class in 24-hour Le Mans and taken the World Endurance Championship LMP2 class victory as well in title. So that's a first time in history that all three have been won together by the same team in the same year, which is rather respectable. So congratulations to them. Anyway, that's me done for another episode. If anyone has any comments, any thoughts that they'd like to have in the comments section below, that would be cool. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye for now.